Alright dudes, I'm back. So I was able to pick up those replacement wheel bearings, and I found out that it's actually the same part number as the one that I already have, except the suffix or the revision is different or something. I don't know. Those ones were showing 625B and the ones I got were 625EC. And I learned that the inside diameter of the inner bearings here are just a tad bit smaller than the revision B. So I got those and they're in the freezer. So now I'm gonna load up all of these parts into my Squareback. I actually also took off the roof rack here because I was doing a bunch of cleaning and I ended up doing some clay bar stuff on this side here, so it's a little bit smoother than the rest of the body. In order for me to properly wash the roof rack has to come off. It's kind of interesting to see the Squareback without the roof rack, but it looks pretty cool. I don't know, I haven't seen it like this in a really long time. So yeah, I'm gonna load everything up and then I'm gonna go over to Old Speed and ask about the tie rod situation. So let's see how that goes. Yeah, just got the new tie rod ends. Russ hooked it up. So yeah, I'll gonna talk to him for a little bit more and then I'll go home and get everything all set up. Shout out my man Russ. Thanks man if you're watching this. So he is nice enough to let me tap these holes out because these new bolts I got from Ace Hardware, they were kind of tough to get in and out, I think because they were pretty rusted. So he gave me a new tie rod end right there. Everything is pretty much set up, so all I really need to do is just clean up these holes and then make my way back home. Before I go though, I want to show you guys what's over here. There's this single cab right here, which is really clean. Right here, there's a bug. I think this bus was here last time I was here. Sand rail. Here's another Squareback. Let's see if we can figure out what year it is. It's an early one for sure. Yeah, it's 67 or older. Maybe we can even see the VIN. No, we can't. Here I am, rackless. What's up, dudes? There's more over here. Buggy, a couple other bugs. Yeah, inside they have quite a few projects as well. Yeah, definitely if you guys need some machine work here in the South Bay, here in the city of Paramount is Old Speed. Anyways, let's get back home. All right, we're back home and I have all of the parts laid out here on this table. And what I wanted to go over really quick was something that I learned from Russ today, and it's regarding the differences in the different beams. So this is the information I had in the last couple of videos, but apparently the issue I was having is I bought these tie rod ends specifically for my Squareback, and it's for a 67 of course, and I think maybe this was for a newer year, like a 68 and up or something like that, and same thing with these spindles. And what ended up happening is the holes for the tie rod ends on the pitman arm, as well as this spindle here, are actually larger than the ones that are on my Squareback. So because I ordered this one for a 67, it's a skinny one. That's why this is way too small. So somewhere between 68 to 70, I think. I guess they got larger here, here, and here. Somebody had told me maybe just to go ahead and reuse my pitman arm that's in the Squareback and just keep the consistency of a 67. But I mean, I already paid a good amount of money for these spindles, and these are also the larger ones, which ends up matching that. I guess it kind of works out. It's kind of an upgrade anyways. So I'll just keep this whole thing, and all I got was another tie rod end, so we should be all good. This is just gonna get reinstalled really quick. I'll probably just put it on a time lapse. That last video I made had a lot of detail on how to put all this together, so I'll just do this really quick and get back to you. Everything went in pretty smooth. No issues at all, just slapped everything together and just bolted it right up. Now the next thing are the brakes finally. And on that last video, I actually pressed in 2 of the races on one rotor, but I would like to remove and replace the race that's in here because this is meant for the bearing that came with this pack here that I got like a while ago. So since I got a new bearing, I would like to replace the race with the one that comes with a new one. Okay, we're gonna use a bit of science to remove that race that's in there using this torch. And I'm gonna heat up the area on the outside of this rotor here so that it heats up and expands. And then on the inside, you can actually see on the other side, right there on the race on the other side, that you can put like a punch just like these and hammer it out. So once this is nice and hot back here, I'm gonna flip it over and then hammer it from this side, hoping that the race comes out nice and straight. So let's go ahead and do that. That race came out no problem. Next up, I'm gonna work on getting the new race installed onto here. So same thing, heat this guy up, get the new ones out of the freezer, and then hammer them in. This wheel seal, once installed, sits right behind the bearing in the back of the rotor. So if I wanted to, I could just do a dry run install without packing this with grease yet. But since I don't want to risk damaging this seal by pulling it out again, I think I'm just going to pack it with grease now, at least the rears. And then the fronts, I'll just pack those with grease once I'm ready to install this onto the car. But for now, I'll just do the rears. That way I can close it all up and just forget about it. So packing grease into the bearings isn't as simple as just lathering it up. You actually have to get it in through these holes here in the back, all through the inside of the bearing. So what you need is this bucket of grease, or wheel bearing grease. Just put a whole bunch on your palm. And what you need to do is hold the bearing like this and just pack it in there and just start digging until the grease starts filling these voids and starts popping out either at the top or on the side. Now the seals, I think they just go on with light taps from a mallet, or in my case, a dead blow. So I think they should just go in relatively easy. These rotors are ready to get installed. Putting the rotor with the bearing already in there may give me a little bit of a fight because the tolerance on the ID of the bearing and the OD of this thing here is going to be pretty tight. So hopefully it just slides right in. Just like that. I just have to unscrew the bolt for the brake caliper because I pushed it in a little bit too far. So that's as far as that's gonna go. Now the outer bearing goes just like that. We have this washer with that little tang. And then this thing. I also restored this little cap thing. I just went through it with a wire wheel and then I repainted it. Looks pretty good. Passenger side is now done. Let's work on the driver's side. I just have to make sure these bolts don't protrude too far out. The driver's side is going to have a reverse thread. I think it's so that it's constantly fighting the rotation of this wheel so that this doesn't just come off. And also the driver's side cap I restored as well. Just make sure this hole is on the driver's side because that's for the speedometer. Both of these rotors installed real nice. It spins really smooth too. So now the last things I need to put on are these calipers. And I'm going to be using these brand new hardware here. There's supposed to be these things that go on the back, like right here. But I don't know if I want to use these ones. I'm hoping the ones that are in my car are in better shape. And if they are, I'll restore those instead of using these. I'm going to install these anyways and see how that looks. Fitting this up should be pretty easy. The pads in here are already centered, so it should just put together just like that. With that ugly piece of metal thing. You can see that the pads and the calipers are already pretty centered. I didn't do any kind of adjustments to these. All I did was install the caliper and started spinning the rotor, and it spins pretty freely. No noises or anything. Yeah, this one's pretty good too. So now I think this beam is pretty much done. I don't think there's anything else I really need to install on here besides like the damper. But the one that's already in there, I installed that like a couple years ago. So I'm just gonna reuse that one. I hope that one's still okay. And then you can actually see here, this black one, this is that OCAP brand that I resprayed. And these other three here are just some generic ones that I got from Russ at Old Speed. So yeah, it's looking real good. Let's see if we can spin this pretty easily. Yep. Pretty good. All right, I'm gonna kind of play around with this, see if I can play around with the alignment and stuff and kind of spin this around. And you can actually also spin these here to really fine tune like the camber and all of that. I do need to remove my beam. Yep, I will take that apart and slowly start to put this back into the car. Thanks for following along, guys. See you next time.